All right, viewers, let's go straight to the top story we're tracking right now. Big breaking news coming in at this point of time. U.S. media is hailing PM Modi's outreach to Putin and is saying very, very clearly that it helped prevent potential nuclear attack on Ukraine in late 2022. Let's go straight across to my colleague, our senior executive editor, Abhishek Kapoor, who's joining us. This is a very, very big statement coming in right now. And what we see is that very clearly it says that as the Russia-Ukraine conflict has been raging on in 2022, the U.S. started preparing rigorously for a potential nuclear strike by Moscow against Kiev. And what they're saying is that the outreach to Putin that time helped prevent potential nuclear attack. Take us through exactly what this media report is saying.
Well, you see, this is attributed to American media and also quoting American officials, and that's why it's important. Remember the famous statement or made famous later by the media where Prime Minister Modi told President Putin on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in Uzbekistan that this is not an era of war, and this in fact got reflected in the G20 communique in September in New Delhi as well. And since then, it has been quoted multiple times by a good number of global leaders and organizations. So I think that must have been the trigger. But what is important is that a tremendous amount of global diplomacy went in, and Prime Minister weighed in. Remember, it's not the only time Prime Minister, in fact, spoke to President Putin when the war was happening. From the time of getting assistance in evacuating Indians who were stuck in Ukraine, particularly in the eastern side. And we have those quotes coming in from those rescued that, in fact, war was stopped for a while, brief, so that the Indian contingent could be evacuated safely. Prime Minister intervened. At that time, he spoke to both the sides, both President Putin and President Zelensky. And subsequently, we have seen a lot of communication happening. So I think while the global diplomacy has sort of failed in getting a peace deal going between the two sides, at least diplomacy succeeded in averting a nuclear attack. And Prime Minister Modi's contribution significant, coming as it does now with this media report attributed to official sources in the United States establishment and the Biden administration.
Right, Abhishek Kapoor. Abhishek, I just want to take our viewers back to what happened 2 months ago. 2 months ago, in a very rare circumstance, in a very rare happening, Global Times said that India has displayed increased strategic confidence and proactive approach in shaping a Bharat narrative. And this is the Global Times, Chinese state-run Global Times, which said this. And this, coupled with what happened right now, U.S. media hailing PM Modi's intervention, what does this really mean for India on the global stage?
Well, you see, this is, Shivangi, in line with the changes we have seen in how India is seen by the rest of the world over the last few years, held by Prime Minister Modi's very energetic diplomatic engagements that we have seen panning out. From the day, in fact, he became Prime Minister, took charge, invited the SAARC nations in the first oath-taking ceremony, then subsequently the MIMSTAC nations and ASEAN leaders. And, it is almost a foreign policy legend now how Narendra Modi, who came from being a chief minister of a state and made such a tremendous success of his foreign policy role as Prime Minister of the country, and be it bringing everyone together, be it a central stage in Global South, be it talking about reforms, be it at the United Nations, be it, weighing evenly with both the Democrats and the Republicans in the United States establishment to make sure that India's interests are guarded, and, keeping at the same time good high-level contacts with much of Europe, in fact, strengthening India's presence in the Middle East. Remember, Prime Minister has traveled to many nations that had not seen an Indian Prime Minister visiting for 2 decades, 3 decades and more, including, for example, Israel. So I think this development that's coming in essentially underscores Prime Minister's foreign policy successes. In this case, it's a big one. That the U.S. media, through its official sources, is acknowledging Prime Minister's role in averting a nuclear catastrophe or a crisis, given the fact that in the initial days it was suspected and it was believed that Russia, to sort of make a quick game of Ukraine or to debilitate Ukraine's capacity to have a long war, might use tactical nuclear weapons, and even that was averted with global diplomacy, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi playing an important role.
All right, thank you for getting us those details. Abhishek Kapoor, a senior executive editor, joining us right now. And this is a very big update coming in where the U.S. media has hailed PM Modi's outreach to Putin, saying it helped prevent potential nuclear attack on Ukraine in late 2022. All right, let's go straight across to our guest who's joining us on the phone line. Madhav Nalapat, strategic expert, joining us right now. Professor Madhav Nalapat, thank you for joining us on Republic TV. And like Abhishek Kapoor was telling us, as senior executive editor, that this is a very, very big update coming in terms of also what India has been showing in the past few years, especially under PM Modi's leadership, taking the lead forward when it comes to global matters. What is your first reaction?
Well, my first reaction is that Prime Minister Modi conducts what we call iceberg diplomacy, the sense that when it is visible on the surface, but a tremendous amount of work is done by the Prime Minister. For example, when the G20 meeting happened, and all the G20 members, including China, signed on to the declaration, it was as a consequence of that skillful and silent diplomacy by Prime Minister Modi that happened, including with China, such as Russia. So, from this standpoint, this particular report, I'm glad it has dropped out of the open, because you'll recall that the period in question, Vladimir Putin more than once talked about the possibility of using nuclear. He was frankly getting impatient with the approach of the Western powers, who were continuing to keep in war, and Russia has many talk of tactics.
All right, thank you, Madhav Nalapat, strategic expert, for joining us here. So, very, very big update coming on Republic TV, viewers, where we are seeing that the U.S. media hailing PM Modi's outreach to Putin and said that it helped prevent potential nuclear attack on Ukraine in late 2022.